Well, it finally starts to feel like it's Christmas season out there, yeah? I'm wearing a sweater and I'm so excited about it. Well, I don't know about you guys, but decorating for this season is my favorite. And I realize that what I'm about to say is probably pretty polarizing, but I am the problem with society right now. And the reason why all the Thanksgiving decorations are 50% off right now. I decorate for Christmas every year, November 1st. Like totally do, always have. My husband caught me once on Halloween night and he came home from work and he said, nope. You may not do this ever again, November 1st. So there it is. But every year I love getting all decorated for the holidays, and we've got a thing for twinkle lights in my family. My girls, it's just a thing. We put them everywhere. And our favorite thing to do is to go to downtown Disney, because if you want to see the holidays done right and a tremendous amount of holiday lights, we go to downtown Disney. So we go and we get something sweet and we walk around and we look at lights, and it's a pretty magical experience, I guess you can say, until you see that kid. And if you guys have been to Disneyland or downtown Disney for that matter, I'm sure you guys all know that kid. This is the kid that is flopping on the ground because he wants a churro and mom says no, or the little girl that's just begging for the toy in the store and her mom's pretending like she doesn't hear her screaming. And I still have this one visual in my mind, my favorite mom ever. She was pushing her stroller straight down, getting through downtown Disney, looking straight ahead with this like fierce face. And her kid in the stroller was like in the 5-point harness in the stroller, just wild, trying to get out of this stroller, screaming. And everyone around was just trying to let her go. And she was just like, don't hear you, don't care, we're getting to the car. And I laugh because every time I see these kids, the same thought comes to my mind, or I'm like, do they know they're at Disneyland? Like, I get you don't have a churro, but just look that way. You're still at Disneyland. And it's kind of like the most ungrateful thing you can do, right, is to throw a fit at Disneyland. Like if you want something so bad, but you forget that you're literally in the most expensive place on earth. It's like, I don't know, this season is when we think about gratitude and being thankful, and I'm sure each of us would say that we want to be grateful women, grateful moms, not just during Thanksgiving time, but really all year round. And we want to teach our kids to be grateful, not just so that they won't become that kid, but we really want to teach our kids to be grateful as well, don't we? As moms, we want to cultivate this heartfelt attitude of gratitude that's actually real and that's actually part of us. And we have the privilege and the responsibility to teach our kids to be grateful as well. Well, I love that the Bible talks so much about gratitude and being thankful. And this past week, I was reading one of my favorite passages that talks about being grateful and kind of a weird direction. And it says, we're to rejoice in the Lord always. And in the same passage, it says, let your reasonableness be known to everyone. And that phrase kind of just stuck with me this week. Rejoice in the Lord always. Sounds like a very churchy thing to say, but to rejoice always, really? That sounds kind of impossible, or maybe a little reaching. But I love that the Bible says that, because that word rejoice is actually talking about an attitude. It's a descriptor of an attitude. To rejoice means to choose to be glad or to be happy. And it's not contingent on your circumstance. It's a choice you make. It's an attitude to be glad and to be happy. This person who can rejoice always, rejoice no matter what the circumstance is one who can see the good and can choose to be glad no matter what. And that grateful person, it goes on in the passage to say, is a person whose reasonableness is known to everyone. That word reasonableness is a describing word. It's an adjective that it means kind, tolerant. It means gentle, patient. And I love the picture the Bible paints of gratitude. This person is someone who can see the good and choose it, regardless of the circumstance. And as they do that, their reasonableness, their kindness, patience, their tolerance is known to everyone around them, kind of like a calming force in the storm. That's the picture of the grateful woman. And it's the picture of a grateful woman that I hope to become. And I think all of us can say that was something that we would aspire to as well. We want to be grateful people, and we certainly want our kids to be grateful as well, don't we? And this might seem impossible. To choose to be grateful, to choose to be glad, no matter what, might seem kind of like a reaching goal, but really it's not impossible. It can be done, but it starts in the mind. It's a decision that we've got to make, and we've got to choose it. If we want to have a grateful attitude, we've got to commit to evaluating where we're at, and we've got to do it regularly. Let's write it this way for our first point. To be truly grateful, you've got to evaluate your attitude regularly. Evaluate your attitude regularly. We all know our kids are sponges. They're learning so much from us, aren't they? I think I loved and hated watching my little one talk on her pretend phone because I don't think I realized how many things she listened to me say and the little phrases that I would say that she would say on her Minnie Mouse phone. And it was always a little shocking, but a good reminder that they are watching us. They're watching everything we do. They're taking it all in. And they learn by example. They learn by watching us do things. I'm in the sweet spot now where my oldest is 9. So we are like hardcore into chores. And she can fold the bathroom towel with pointed corners. It's awesome. But she didn't get there because I told her just to go fold a towel. I sat with her, I folded it, I made her start over. We did it again and again and again. She's learning by emulating what she sees. That's how she's learning to do things. And really, that's how our kids do learn. They're going to learn the most from us as moms. They are watching us so closely, which is a blessing and a curse, right? They're going to see all of your good habits. They're going to see your good attitudes. And they're going to see all your bad habits and your bad attitudes and might even repeat them on their little Minnie Mouse phone when you have guests over. They are watching us. They're watching everything we do. And so this is why it's so important that we really evaluate how we're doing, that we think about our attitude, that we think about what we're saying and how we're saying it, because they're watching us. Think of it this way. When your kids are all grown up and they're moved out of your house and they think back to their childhood, what is the mental picture that you want them to have of you? When they're 20 years old and someone asks them about growing up at home and they picture their mom, what is it that they'll visualize when they think of you? Will they picture you smiling? Will they picture you calm when things got a little crazy or chaotic? What's the picture that you want them to have? Because ultimately, as moms, we have to choose the attitude of gratitude, as cheesy as that sounds. We've got to choose it because they're watching us. And this is not going to be easy. The struggle is real, we get it. When you sleep for 2 hours a night and you clean the house for the first time in a month and your child throws his spaghetti against the wall and you have to choose to be happy about it, that's hard. We know that, but really it's so important because little eyes are watching us, they're taking it in, and they're going to learn how to be grateful from our example. So practically speaking, this means we've got to watch our facial expressions, we've got to watch our body language, we've got to watch the way we carry ourselves because they are looking to emulate us. Whew, what a task. They are watching. I have found this to be a true fact. Every day that I start my day purposely thinking about the attitude I want to have has been a better day. And usually, everybody's a little fresher in the mornings, everyone's a little happier, and for me, as I pour my coffee that day and I think about the day I want to have, and I'm praying through my attitude, and I'm praying for God to help me have the right perspective, the day tends to go a little smoother. Not always a guarantee, but it helps me respond the way I should. And this was put to the test in my life a couple days ago. I poured myself my coffee, I went to go get ready, I was in the bathroom doing my hair, and I yelled to the girls. We had 10 minutes before we had to walk out the door. So I told them, girls, 10 minutes and then we have to leave. And their response, I kid you not, was, okay, just like that. So I, set the curling iron out, iron down. I was like, well, someone's in trouble. What's going on? Walked out in the living room just in time to see my 2 girls fumbling with a gallon-sized Ziploc bag of fuse beads. Have you guys seen fuse beads? Oh, don't ever let your kids have them. They're little tiny plastic beads, and you make a pattern with them. And then you iron them, and they become this plastic thing that no one knows what to do with. Those are fuse beads. And my daughters love them. And we have this massive stack of them. And sure enough, I keep them all in a Ziploc bag, and they dropped it, and beads were everywhere. So my youngest daughter was trying to sweep, which is just throwing beads everywhere in the house. And my older daughter is panicking, trying to clean it up. So I rounded the corner to this scene, and just for the record, I had just cleaned the living room the night before to perfection, but that's okay. So I round the corner, and I see what's going on, and I had a choice to make in that moment. Okay, I've just been praying for my attitude, or how I'm going to rejoice in all circumstances, and here are 8 million fuse beads on my floor. How am I going to respond? By God's grace, I did actually respond well, and we laughed about the fact of we didn't realize we owned so many fuse beads till right now. And instead of making my girls cry and punishing them for an accident, we chose to laugh about it. We chose to make a teaching moment out of it. And I chose a better response because God in his kindness helped me think through the big picture, the long-term picture. And honestly, choosing the right attitude and choosing the right response as a mom really starts by being grateful for the fact that we get to be moms. I know it might sound kind of backwards, but track with me for a minute. We know that we are going to face hard things as moms. There's going to be messes, there's going to be chaos, there's going to be fighting, and yet it's so fleeting. It's such a gift, and it's so temporary. And I'm already starting to believe what all of the older moms told me, like it goes so fast. I was like, sure, it never goes fast. I don't sleep. But now I'm starting to believe it because nobody wants to watch Minnie Mouse in my house anymore. We're already to that point. And I can tell you that in 10 years, I will still be finding fuse beads in my living room, 100%. But also in 10 years, I won't have daughters playing beads in my living room. They're not gonna need my help to clean up. They're not gonna ask for me to show them how to hold the broom. They're not gonna be there playing like little girls. So in the moments when I feel frustrated, feel tempted to lose it, feel like my circumstances are frustrating, the thing that gets me to have the right attitude quicker than anything is to focus on that thing that I have to be grateful for most, is although it's difficult, although it's challenging, I get to be a mom. I've got these sweet girls that are in my house playing beads, and it's not gonna be for long. Oof, and it's so fast. When we focus on what we do have, it helps us to have the right perspective. And as moms, it's crucial. We've got to fight to keep that perspective. We've got to fight to keep it. No matter if you are peeling spaghetti off the wall or vacuuming beads from under your couch, fight to keep that perspective. Remember the gift that is yours, the joy that you get to be a mom. That's incredible. And it's not just the right attitude. It's not choosing just to slap a smile on or carry yourself a better way. It's genuine gratitude. It's not walking around the corner and seeing the fuse beads and saying, oh, good, we're playing beads. It's not just forcing a smile. It's choosing to actually think about the gift that we've been given. You're a mom. How incredible. We've got to fight for that perspective. We've got to choose it. And I want to write it this way for our second point. If you want to be a grateful mom, choose gratitude continually. Choose gratitude continually. My older daughter, as you heard, she was notorious in our family for not sleeping. And I'm not trying to be dramatic. She did not sleep. We're talking 45 minutes at a time for 2 years. I remember Googling if you could die from not sleeping. I asked the doctor, at what point you start losing your mind when you don't sleep anymore. And she didn't sleep at all until she was 2, and my second daughter was born by then. It was just this terribly long road of no sleep. And we found out after the fact that she had celiac disease, so she was in pain. She didn't like to eat, she didn't like to sleep, and I was pregnant with a bunch of my friends all at the same time, and I just remember watching their babies just suck down their baby food and sleep for at least 4 hours, here and there. And then for us, it was just everything was a fight. Didn't like to eat, didn't like to sleep, and I was just exhausted. And I look back now, and I'm not proud of how often I played the martyr and complained. I'd see my friends come in like a little less puffy-eyed than me and think, how nice for you. Your kid sleeps. That's great. And I remember this one day in particular, I just felt like I was losing it. I couldn't take it anymore. She was about 6 months old, so I didn't even know at that point the road that was ahead of me. But I was exhausted, and I just lost it. I spewed. I complained to everybody I saw. Life was so unfair. All I wanted was 2 hours in a row. Is that so hard? I would pay $500. It's like 2 hours in a row. And sure enough, Allie started crying again, and I went to go pick her up and instantly felt she was hot. Like hot. Her temperature was 103 and rising. And we lived up in Lake Arrowhead at that time, so we had to make that now or never decision. Like, we got to go. It's snowing. We've got to get our two-wheel drive car down this hill to get her to the emergency room now. And we went, and I still remember this vivid picture of just sitting watching them hook her up to all kinds of stuff and just sobbing and thinking, I would give anything for a normal sleepless night right now. And I think back to that night, that moment when she was just a baby, and it stands in my mind still to this day as an offense I don't want to repeat. I don't want to take for granted the things that I have. And I'm kind of embarrassed that it took something so shocking to kind of grab me by the shoulders and be like, stop it. Stop looking at what you don't have, namely sleep, and look at what you do have. You have this beautiful little girl. You get to be a mom. And that night, I remember making a commitment saying, like, Lord, help me not focus on what I don't have, but help me focus on what I do have. Help me be grateful. Because it's hard sometimes. But really, that's the key, isn't it? In a very real sense, we can be that kid at Disneyland screaming for the churro and forgetting we're at Disneyland. We can do that in our own lives when we choose to look at the things we don't have instead of the things that we do have. But what if your circumstances are legitimately tough? What if you are anxious and you feel like your world is spinning out of control and things are hard? And I can tell you from experience, when you don't sleep, even just that can make that feeling feel very real and huge. What do you do then? Well, I love that the Bible speaks to that as well. Speaks to our anxieties as well. And in that same passage goes on to say that we shouldn't be anxious about anything because in everything with prayer and petition, we can make our requests known to God. That's huge. When we struggle with things that are hard, when we face anxieties, which are sure to happen, God wants us to direct those thoughts, those anxieties, those things that we want and pray to him. He wants us to turn them over to him. We know that everything we have, every good, every perfect gift, everything we have ultimately comes from God. He's the source. He's the source of every good thing we have. He's the reason we're holding babies in our arms. He is the one who gives us everything. And even if he chose to give us nothing to be thankful for, he'd be just in doing that. Because realistically, we don't really deserve anything. We're not entitled to all the good things that we think we want. We don't need to always have the churro and the cheesecake and Disneyland. We are people who are saved by God, and that should be enough to make us grateful. We need to remember that God is the one who gives us good things, and he doesn't even have to do that. He would be just if he didn't. And yet, because he is good and he's kind, he gives us good and perfect gifts. And he wants us to redirect our anxiety into prayers to him. Further in that verse, it says that we are to pray to him, to ask him for things that we need, that we're to turn our anxieties over to him. And when we do, it's a very cool thing. The Bible says that when we redirect our anxiety to prayer to him, he gives us peace. And this peace is something that's found only in Jesus. It's a peace that is so full and complete that it's hard to even understand. It's a peace that guards our hearts and our minds. It's a peace that helps us to be content and think about the things that we should be grateful for. But it's only in Jesus. If we want to be truly grateful people, we've got to actually understand who gives us our good gifts and turn everything over to him. Because ultimately, he's the one who gives it to us, and he's just, even if he doesn't give us what we think we deserve. When we think through the things that we are thankful for, when we think through the things that we actually have, we can't help but see our attitudes change, right? And this isn't just some ethereal, like, oh, I'm so grateful kind of feeling. This is a specific gratefulness. Think about specific people you are grateful for. Think about specific circumstances or specific material items that you have, your house, your car, as silly as it is. When you think about specific things you're thankful for, it changes the way you think about being grateful. It helps you see the good. When you can pinpoint specific things and articulate them, not just to other people, but namely to your kids. That is an example, isn't it? That's what we want our kids to learn. We want our kids to not just be like, oh, I'm so thankful, but to really actually say, I'm thankful for this, for that, to be able to articulate it. This is an important thing that we have got to remember, to be specific with our gratitude, and we've got to teach our kids by living it out with our example. Are you guys interested in tacky, cheesy Thanksgiving ideas to help your kids be more thankful? Yay, okay, good. Because of people like me, you can go to Michael's and find plastic pumpkins that are now 50% off, for real. It's great. So every year, I'll have my girls do a thankfulness pumpkin. And it's, again, it's so cheesy, but it's okay. I hand them permanent markers and then have them write on their pumpkin what they're thankful for. And it's sweet because, Emmy, when she was little, she couldn't write yet, so she drew pictures. And I have this one pumpkin in particular that just says, Lammy, huge, across the front. It's fun to see what your kids will think of specifically when you ask them, what are you thankful for? Not just to write, I'm thankful on the pumpkin, but what is it exactly? And then when you look at years to come, your little collection of pumpkins or things that you see your kids are specifically grateful for, it's a good reminder to them and to you. Oh man, look at all the things we have. Look how grateful we should be. And you could do that with Christmas ornaments as well, for those of you who have no pumpkins in your house right now. And this is kind of cool. My husband's aunt, when she has us over for Thanksgiving, has this tablecloth, and she just puts fabric pens on the table. And we all write on the tablecloth what we're thankful for. And it's covered in writing, and it's kind of cool, actually, because now some of the relatives who are no longer with us, their handwriting is still on this tablecloth of the things that they were thankful for. I mean, whatever means you guys can think of, or to get creative, try to pull your kids in with you on being grateful. Not just to teach them, just to, see the world more positively, but really to be specific. Look at all the things we have. Look at all these things we can be grateful for. It's such a good thing to teach your kids to name what they're thankful for, to articulate it, to say it. It's so important. Well, there's so many things that we take for granted. I mean, I do at least. And in the reverse, there are so many things that we should be thankful that God has not given us. The fact that we're all sitting in this room right now means that we're not in the hospital. We didn't get in a car accident on the way here. I mean, that's kind of a backwards, morbid way to think about it. But there are so many things that we should be thankful that we don't have, as well as for the things that we do have. We have so many things that we've got to be grateful for. And this season really is the time when we think about being grateful. We get our families together. We make turkeys, we write on tablecloths, we think about all the things that we have to be grateful for. But really, being grateful isn't just having a life is, a glass half full kind of attitude. It's not just this positive thinking where you think about your blessings more than your misfortunes. Being grateful really begs the question, who are you grateful to? What are you thankful for, but where did you get these things? Thankfulness begs the question, to who? And if we know that every good and every perfect gift comes from God, then we really should direct our thankfulness to Him. Our thankfulness should have an object. It should be directed. Let's write it this way for our third point. If you want to be a thankful person, you've got to direct your thankfulness specifically. Direct your thankfulness specifically. Imagine this scenario with me. You are at downtown Disney. You are pushing your stroller with your kids. You are drinking your latte, and then out of the corner of your eye, you see one of those Disney people in their suits and their little red ties and name tag walking over to you. And he keeps coming, and he keeps walking towards you, and eventually he stands right in front of you and says, I want to pay for you to go to the park today, which is awesome because you were not actually going into Disneyland. We affectionately refer to downtown Disneyland, or downtown Disney, as poor man's Disneyland in my house. We think it's very fun to go and like, okay, it's time to go home. And my kids just kind of, they love it. They don't know. But imagine with me, somebody hands you a little card and says, I want you to go to Disneyland for free. It's on me. But more than that, he pulls out a secondary card and says, oh, and also, here's $2,000. All your meals, all your souvenirs, just stay in the hotel when you get tired, all for free. How would you respond? Yippee. Yeah, right. If you're like me, you'd probably blubber a little bit and hug him and thank you. But now imagine this. Imagine if this same man gets down on one knee and he gets right in your child's face and he looks at him in the eyes and he says, have a magical day. And to your horror, your child's not looking at him because he's fighting with his sister in the stroller and they're pulling hair and they're screaming. And you're kind of embarrassed, so you nudge him a little bit. Say thank you. And nothing really changes. So you nudge him harder. Look at him in the eye and say thank you. And so he turns around and kind of looks off to the side, doesn't even look at the man and just goes, thanks, off into the void. You'd probably be embarrassed, right? You want your child to see the gift he's been given. He's about to go to Disneyland for free and say thank you. Look him in the eyes, say thank you. That is directing our gratitude. It's not just throwing out some thanks, I'm so happy, I'm so full of good feelings into the void. To be a thankful person means you are thanking someone, namely God, who is the source of every good and perfect gift. And if that's our attitude, really, it does kind of trickle down into the people in our lives. It trickles down into the way we interact with other people who give us good gifts. And we've got to teach our kids to direct their thankfulness specifically as well. This might just sound overly basic or like a manners lesson, but this means making eye contact. We can teach our kids to do this when we show them how to look at the waitress when they fill up their glass full of water and say thank you at the restaurant. Or when mom and dad or grandma and grandpa or even their teacher at school gives them something, to look them in the eyes and say thank you. To communicate the respect of acknowledging someone specifically, recognizing the gift, and saying thank you. Now, it's hard to do that. It can be awkward for kids to have to make eye contact, but it's a good thing to teach them, isn't it? It's a good thing to teach our kids to recognize specific gifts and say thank you. And a good old-fashioned thing that you could do with your kids that's kind of a lost art now is to teach them to write thank you notes even. When they get a birthday card or a birthday gift, to sit down and write a card and say thank you to that person. My kids hate this. Oh, they hate it. But it's so good for them to take a little time to sacrifice, to sit down and acknowledge that they've been given something and to say thank you back. We can teach our kids that being grateful should be directed, should have an object, should be specific. That's so important. As the years go by, I fear that the kid that writes the thank you note to his teacher to say thank you is becoming more and more of the lost art. And the kid who screams because he wants more churros at Disneyland is becoming more and more and more of the norm. We have the tremendous burden and the privilege to train up the next generation to be thankful, grateful people. It's not going to be easy. It is going to go against the grain. And especially as moms, the innate desire, at least for me, is to give them everything they want, to indulge them, to give them the life that's perfect so that they'll be happy. But really, the best thing we can do as moms is to take our kids out of the equation a little bit, help them look at their life, see the good that they already have, and teach them to choose to be thankful for it. That is going to help our next generation be thankful people. That's what we should teach our kids to do, and it starts with us, with our example, choosing to have a glad heart, no matter the circumstance. Choosing to see the good, to choose it, to fight for it, to thank God for it specifically, to be able to articulate it to others and to our kids. Not an easy task, but something I believe we can do as women, as moms, to help our kids understand what gratefulness really is. I hope that this season is one where our kids really start to get that for the first time, and we can lead by example by being truly grateful women. I am praying for your group times. I hope that it's a really good time of discussion where we can encourage each other to be grateful. And also, hope you guys have an awesome Thanksgiving. Thank you guys for letting me join you. You are dismissed.